He served 4 historic terms as governor of North Carolina, and we are proud to welcome him to Education Matters. Governor Jim Hunt, thanks for being on the show.
I am delighted to be here, and having this show all across North Carolina is one of the best things that happened to North Carolina in a long time, and you're doing a great job, and keep it up.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, I mentioned it when I opened that the education governor, obviously you've been referred to that for a long time. Why did you make education such an integral part of your platform and really your policy agenda as governor?
Keith, education is the key to the future. I grew up in a little rural community about 50 miles east of Raleigh, mostly poor people, both races. We didn't have Hispanics at that time. My mother was an English teacher. I saw what education can do for people. And I saw it as an opportunity for everybody to have an equal chance in life. And then when I went to NC State and then on to law school at Carolina and went into politics and got elected, I found out that business people who are going to invest and create jobs and opportunities for our people are looking for educated employees. That's what they're looking for.
Right.
So if we want to have a great future and have good jobs and our children to stay around, by George, we have to have great schools. And I mean really good ones and not just some that'll get us along.
Right. Now, obviously, partisanship and politics are nothing new. You were pretty good at politics in your day, but it does seem like you were able to get folks to coalesce around investing in education. I mean, you made it a priority, but you brought people along with you. I mean, how did you do that?
Well, you have to find people who are motivated by the right things. Are they thinking about those children? Are they thinking about their future? Or are they just responding to somebody from the right or the left wing who wants to come in here and push their outside objectives? I always believed in working for the people and working with the people, and I found people I could work with. For example, we had a great Republican governor named Jim Holshouser. He was elected the year I was elected lieutenant governor. Well, he was a moderate Republican, and I was a moderate Democrat. We worked together, and together we put kindergartens into North Carolina.
Right.
Most people watching us don't realize we didn't always have them. We didn't.
Right.
And we got them in there, and we worked together on that and many other things. But once in a while, you have to just fight people. If they are not willing to put enough money into education, if they're not willing to support teachers and early childhood, the things that we know we have to have, you just go to the mat and take them on and try to beat them. I did both ways.
And early childhood was one of those areas that you really went. I mean, you mentioned full-day kindergarten. That was something that came about with you as Lieutenant Governor, Governor Holshouser. You kept pushing it on. Teachers' assistants, early childhood, and Smart Start.
Right.
Why? What was clear to you about why that was important? Because there's a lot of research now. There wasn't as much research about the benefits in 1976.
That's right. Now we have real proof, so much proof. They can literally take pictures of a child's brain and see what's happening in those earliest years. And we found out that by the second year of life, or the third year of life, that already big things are happening already, and we need to do the right things. We certainly knew it for kindergarten way back in those days. And we must listen to the science. We must listen to teachers. We need to listen to parents and then do what it's going to take. But we now know that if North Carolina is going to be successful with education and then with our economy and have good jobs and a great future, it's all about education. You got to start early, and you got to have great teachers.
Speaking of teachers, raising teacher salary to the national average was a big push for you in your second go-round in your last 2 terms. Was that the most important thing? Do you see that as maybe one of your biggest successes? You've got a lot of things you've done in education, but where does that rank?
Well, that ranks very high. I would say I was the first 2-term governor, and then went out. You had to go out, came back later for 2 more terms. In those first years, we knew about kindergarten. We were putting that in place, and we phased that in, by the way. Couldn't do it all in 1 year.
Right.
Sometimes that's what you have to do with education. You can't do everybody the first year. You phase it in, take some of the counties, and then get the rest of them later on. So we were focusing on those early years then. And then we went along in years which we were trying to make sure we were getting, we were going to be competitive with all the other states and with all of the other countries. Listen, North Carolina isn't satisfied to just get along and be okay. We want to be excellent. Right. I always said I want to be number one in the nation, you know, and we got up to 10th at one time in many respects. So in those first few years, we were pushing early childhood education, and came back to that later on with Smart Start. But always, Keith, and I want to make this point to all of our folks who are watching us, business has always been supportive of this. Right. We've got 100 counties in North Carolina. They all want jobs. Some big ones are going to be announced very soon in North Carolina. But when they come in and they're considering putting their plants in here, or bright people are considering to move to the Research Triangle or Charlotte or maybe some of our small towns, they want to make darn sure they've got a good educated workforce and that they're going to have good education for their children. Well, you mentioned that about business. One of the biggest jobs for the governor, Governor Cooper certainly knows this, Governor McCrory before him, is being the chief sort of economic development officer for the state. Right. You spent a lot of time doing that. Was education, was it your top selling point or one of your top selling points for our state? No question about it. And I used to take, 1, 2, 3 international trade missions around the world. We were recruiting from everywhere to come to North Carolina. And Governor Cooper's doing a great job of that now. Some big things are coming right away. But in every case, they wanted to know about the workforce. And they wanted assurance that it was going to be good, and they wanted good early childhood for their employees' children, as well as the kind of start that they need to have for a good education. So it's absolutely the most important thing to do, but you have to invest in it. You can't just say it, hope for it. You got to put your dollars into it, and North Carolina has the dollars to put into it. Well, we're going to talk about that in the second part about what we're doing today. But how important was the business community in helping you push these things forward? There were you had some friends in the executive suites of some big companies that got on board with you, right? I expect I was the closest governor to business leaders in North Carolina that maybe we've ever had, and it was because, well, I liked them. I knew some of them. But they knew what I was about. In fact, when I came back from my last 2 terms, I went around asking the business people and some others what they thought about coming back. And the thing they touched on every time was education. If you're really serious about that, if you're going to do that, we'll support you. And then when I'd have a press conference to announce, a new initiative, Smart Start or whatever, the business leaders would be by my side. So it wasn't just the governor saying we ought to do it. It was them saying it. And then, of course, I always ran on it. Listen, when I had a campaign, I didn't just talk about different things. I didn't just run pretty ads. I ran ads about putting kindergarten in, putting in Smart Start, raising teacher pay to the national average. We got up to 20th. We went from 44th to 20th in my last 2 terms as governor. And that got us to the national average. And I ran all of my commercials, or most all of them, about doing that. I said to the people, if you want to do this, you want to raise teacher pay, have better teachers for your children, vote for me. And if you don't, vote for the other fella. So it was good politics, too. When we get back, we'll talk a little bit about politics. I want to talk a little bit about the state of things today and sort of where we're going as a state going forward. So when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Governor Hunt. Stick around.